it's nice to have you here. It is an important part of your constituency, although you've got, I understand, quite a number of councils to board to deal with. So you're hand-drawn and quartered, really, aren't you, in that sense? So welcome, and enjoy the session. I'm all geared up with some questions, and there'll be some supplementaries as well. So, any questions from a member of the public? Was there? Sir, are you Mike Brett?
I am Mike Brett, yes.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. The beneficial effect on the vitality and well-being of rural economies provided by good internet connectivity is well established. Despite all the positive spin applied to the successful provision of faster broadband, the 10% of the Dublin population deemed to be the least cost-effective to reach are still largely unserved. They currently suffer not only from unreliable and slow broadband, but also from a complete lack of meaningful data from anyone about what they might end up with and when. The longer provision under the government scheme takes, the less suitable the performance capabilities of that service become. Many observers regard the superfast broadband currently being installed by the monopoly supplier as already technically obsolete and certainly not well suited for the sorts of digital involvement that governments, local councils and medical agencies, amongst others, are hoping to develop in order to improve services and save money in the longer term. The campaign group Broadband for Rural Crediton, which I'm representing today, has been created in the Sandford and Creedy ward in an attempt to counteract the spin and increase public awareness of the true facts, both good and bad, surrounding this complex topic. We are even exploring the feasibility of a community-led scheme to install high-performance fibre to the home ourselves. A meeting was held between Mr. Nucky and Miss Denton of CDS, during which there was an indication of possible assistance available to a suitable community scheme to accelerate their adoption of superfast broadband via fibre to the home. We have recently been advised that a further meeting is planned for March the 18th. Please could Mr. Stride ensure that during this discussion, which I'm sure will range over bigger things than our campaign's initially planned scope, that clarification of this possible assistance is actually covered and not forgotten. Prompt clarification would help us to decide how best to assist this seemingly neglected section of the population to help itself. We would be happy to attend to provide direct input at any stage. Thank you.
Mike, thank you very much for that comprehensive question. Much more comprehensive than that. I will be attending the meeting on the 18th, so I will certainly take your request to pull further kind of assistance that might be available for community-based groups such as yourselves, which incidentally I think are extremely important because in these difficult to reach areas where cost is very high and in some cases almost prohibitively high, it seems to me that if the community can get together and allay some of those costs, maybe by helping out with some of the digging of channels or some of the infrastructural kind of work that's required and pooling those kind of resources, that can only be helpful. And I know Judy, Councillor Binks and I met to look at the parish and look at the kind of download speeds that you're getting in the various parts of it. And I think that finer grain observation and detail is extraordinarily important. I had a meeting with the Chancellor of the Exchequer a couple of weeks ago and raised with him a specific issue as to whether he felt and the government felt enough was being done to empower and perhaps provide a toolkit, if you like, to groups such as your own to make sure that we energise you and groups like yours to be as effective as they possibly can on the ground, because clearly fibre from cabinet to the home that may be a mile and a half away, if you look at the cost of installing that, and significantly exceeding the 24 Mbps in many cases, most of that cost obviously is to do with the channeling, the ducting and those kind of issues where local communities, if you give them the tools, empower them, subject to obvious certain parameters and guidance, etc., might be able to have a major impact. I've been engaged with BT Openreach. I've not been wildly enthusiastic or particularly happy about during phase one that they have achieved, and I've made many representations through CDS and others in that respect. And obviously at the moment, in terms of phase two, which we're hoping will be concluded subject to state aid clearance within the next couple of months perhaps, I think that will become a much more interesting era for groups such as yourself, where more suppliers are coming in with different kind of technologies and solutions to reach those more difficult areas. One of which I've also been liaising closely with, is Airband, who have started already on Dartmoor, and I think there should be a lot of hope around actually the effectiveness that they're going to be able to roll out. And I've pressed hard through CDS to ensure that that particular company is able to provide its service off Dartmoor, and that is indeed beginning to happen. So in essence, I think it's really important what you're doing. I will be there at the meeting on Friday, and I will do whatever I can to assist you and other groups like yours to help provide solutions to those hard to reach areas.
Thank you.
Judy, your question was very much on that. Did you want to pick up anything up?
Yes,
on that?
I think in the light of that, may I just ask, Michael, are you satisfied with that answer? Because if you are, my question was more or less going to replicate that, and I would withdraw in favour of a discussion by other people.
Yes,
Do you
thank
feel that's had a good enough
I
airing?
would only make a comment.
And I still might chip in, but you know.
If groups like ours can be encouraged, other places in the country have shown that apart from the broadband benefit, there's huge benefits in just pulling the community together and revitalising it.
Yeah.
People suddenly find, yes, there are people down the road that they never worked with before, and it all comes to life. Very beneficial.
Perhaps, Chairman, through you, I could just add that the government's aspirations, you will know, is that there should be 90% at 24 megabits by the end of this year. The figure, I'm afraid, in Central Devon is 76% currently, so there is some way to go. Now, you would expect that. It's not necessarily a function of being inefficient at rolling things out. It's also a function, clearly, of the difficulty of the task that is being faced. It is much more difficult out in our part of the world to achieve those kind of figures than in other areas. But there is some way to go. And there's evidence that other pilots in areas like Lancashire and others have been quite successful in doing exactly what you're looking at doing. So I'm quite hopeful that there are some positive things that will come from that.
Yeah, what we do need, Mel, is we definitely need at your meeting some clarification from Kerry Denton and CDS about exactly what might be on the table in phase two. We need to know sort of what we're dealing with, really, what the options are.
Yes.
That's where I would thank you for that. Thank you very much.
On that point, Chairman, through you, I think that one of the things that I've been discussing with them is vouchers for those who are out in difficult to reach areas.
Yes.
The average delivery cost that they look at across the patch is about £200 per dwelling, but there is a suggestion that we'll be trialling now £500 vouchers for those who are in very difficult to reach locations.
And that wouldn't rule them out of phase two if they didn't
No.
reach 24 megabits.
Correct, it would.
Okay.
It would be for those who are achieving 2 megabits or less, i.e. you're really getting precious little.
Thank you.
It's been suggested that Devon and Somerset, I suppose, are the far behind other parts of the country. I don't know how true that is, but one wonders what's actually gone wrong in Devon and Somerset rather than other parts of the country.
Yeah, I can't really comment across the whole region. I mean, I suspect it's pure rurality is of necessity causing it to be more of a challenge than elsewhere. But as I say, speaking of
basically the reach, isn't it, in rural areas, the nature of the network.
I mean, BT can be help or hinder. I mean, it's interesting. I've got some figures here. They all relate to the Mid-Devon part of Central Devon, my parliamentary constituency. But interestingly, for example, Nick will be interested to know that in Lawrence and Boniface, super fast broadband coverage is at 89% to 94%.
Yeah,
But somewhere like Bradninch is at 0%. And that is just BT upgrading the cabinets and getting the fibre in there. So it's very patchy. It depends on what is in there at the time.
Okay, so you'll take away the broadband story, I think.
Yeah, I will come back right at the end. I want to give Mel something.
All right.
Thank you. It's his lucky
No, not
day.
me. It's valued at over £100.
You are being recorded.
In a brown envelope in the nicest possible way.
We'll move on to the questions, Jenny. Would you like to?
Yeah, Jenny Roach.
Jenny,
Hi,
hello.
hi, Mel. Yeah, this is actually, I was pointed out to me, it was not so much a question. The question is, these are the effects, perceived effects by people in my patch, of the effects of the relaxation of planning controls and some of the concerns they have. But I'd just like to know your view on the list that's there.
Right, the main thing that I had, I think, was relating to barn conversions
Yeah.
and those kind of issues. Okay. Well, just to clarify the situation as I understand it, there is no